best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. Well, it's the Thursday before the Cowboys game. Very excited, very excited. This is going to be the first time that the Giants have played in front of fans this season. I didn't even think about that until I saw they were in Dallas and Big D, and Dallas is going to have probably about 21,000 people in the stands. That will... I mean, it's not going to be the home field advantage the Cowboys are looking for, but you know what? It is going to offer more of a crowd noise than the generic crowd noises that are pumped in the stadiums. I don't think it's going to be too much of a factor. I think the factors of the games are going to be the Dallas's defense and the Dallas's offense, and what I mean by that is their offense seems to be unstoppable, and their defense seems like they can't stop anybody. And I've said it before, I have a concern about this getting a get-right game for the Cowboys defense. But I wanted to talk about something real quick. We did a video yesterday about benching Daniel Jones. That we had seen the article that Dwayne Haskins has been benched for a couple of games. For Kyle Allen, he's actually dropped to third. He's not even going to be active. And I was saying, though, and I predicted that the Giants will probably bench Daniel Jones sometime this season. And I predicted that a couple months ago. And I don't really see the big father about it, the big issue. Quarterbacks get benched. And I was thinking about it, and I'm an old-time Giant fan, and I go, I don't want to say way back, but I go to 1976. And I find it interesting that if you take a look at one of the greatest quarterbacks in Giants history, he was benched multiple times. And that's Phil Simms. Phil Simms came into the league, of course, as our number one draft choice in '79. I always love because I always do my Pete Rozelle, quarterback, Phil Simms, Morehead State. And you hear, oh, boo, the typical New York Giant fan reaction. And Simms, through his career, had been benched multiple times, and he still won a Super Bowl and was part of a second Super Bowl team. And then a lot of times people forget in the '83 season, Simms lost his job to Scott Brunner. Parcells went with Brunner instead of Simms, and Parcells says to this day that's one of the biggest mistakes he ever made because he listened to other people instead of going, with his gut feeling. And then Simms was benched again in 91 and 92. Two full years he was benched. I mean, and then he came back for his last season in 93, had a Pro Bowl season, led the Giants to 11-5 record in the playoffs. So, I mean, being benched is not the end of the world. Yeah, when Simms got benched in 83, he asked to be traded, but Simms, outside of his 3-10 record in 1980, he actually played well. In 79, his rookie season, he was 6-5. In 81, the Giants, when they first returned to the playoffs, and I don't know how long, he was 5-5. So he was not outside of, his 80 season, his record, he had a winning record. So and of course it was 11-10, but it's still a winning record. And he played well. And you have to remember in the 70s and 80s and 90s, it was a different time for quarterbacks because wide receivers could basically get mugged off the line by the DBs. Now, if you touch someone or breathe on them the wrong way, they get a flag. But getting benched early in your career or even late in your career is more about your mental makeup. That's what it's about. So if we're concerned the frailty of Daniel Jones' mental makeup, if he gets benched for a game or two, then he's not our guy. He's not a New York guy. Eli took his benching the right way. And he even said, I'm not going to do this stuff where I come in and keep my streak alive. You're going to bench me, you're going to bench me. Who the hell did we bench him for? We benched him for Geno Smith. It was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. McAdoo deserved to be fired. But Eli took that benching like you're supposed to. And I keep getting blown up about people, about things, but I'll talk about that later. He took his benching like he was supposed to. Even when he got benched for Daniel Jones, he knew it was coming. This is at the end of his career, but he took it like Eli Manning. So if we're concerned of the frailty of the ego of Daniel Jones to have to sit a game, then he's not our quarterback. Like I said, Phil Simms was a starter for 3 years, lost his job to injury in 82, came back in 83, and then was ceremoniously benched in favor of Scott Brunner. I mean, there's something seriously wrong with that. But yeah, and he didn't take his benching well because he was a competitor. He asked to be traded, and Parcells basically said, "Hell no, I'm not trading you. You can leave. You can check that and leave that at the door." And honestly, let's break this down in all honesty. If the Giants continue down this path, and let's say they only win 2 games this season, let's just for sake, let's just say they're the worst team in the NFL. They win 2 games. And we turn around and we see it and we have the shot for Trevor Lawrence. You got to take it. Trevor Lawrence has that kind of that Joe Namath swagger. He's got that look. He's got that image. And his play on the field is what you want in a quarterback. And of course, this is just in college. There's plenty of college quarterbacks that came out that were can't-miss prospects that totally missed. But if you have a can't-miss prospect like Trevor Lawrence sitting in front of you, and you have Daniel Jones, and even if he improves and has an okay season or a good season, you have to consider taking Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the Cardinals, everyone laughed at the Cardinals for dumping Rosen and going with Kyler Murray. Because you wasted your draft choices. You wasted your picks. Yeah, now no one's saying that now that Josh Rosen's not even in the league, and Kyler Murray has played lights out at times. He's also played bad at times. But they went with their quarterback they thought they could win with for years to come. And if the situation is that we have an opportunity to draft Trevor Lawrence, as an organization and as a fan base, we need to be willing and open to that, because I honestly think, and like I said, this is just my opinion, I honestly think that Trevor Lawrence has a much higher upside than Daniel Jones. And there's not saying that Daniel Jones is not going to be a good quarterback. I don't see him being a Dave Brown. I see him being in between Eli Manning and Dave Brown. Kind of a Kerry Collins type guy. And Kerry Collins had some good year for the Giants. But I see him kind of in that middle. He's not going to be our all-time quarterback, but he's not going to be our all-time bust. He's going to be in the middle. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you can win with quarterbacks that are in the middle. Brad Johnson, Trent Dilfer, brought those names up I don't know how many times before. And that's what we need to think about as fans. In some ways, as fans, we have to get out of the mindset that just because you draft someone, they're not irreplaceable. And I think in a lot of ways we need to think about that. And we need to think about, not only does Daniel Jones have a future with the Giants, we have to understand, does Daniel Jones fit the Giants' future? And and that's what we need to look at. And like I said, we can't be afraid of not going back to square one at the quarterback position, especially if we have an opportunity. And I'm saying I'm only saying this is if we have the opportunity to draft Trevor Lawrence. I don't want Fields. I have bad feelings about Fields. He may be a good quarterback. He may be, he's got to show me a little bit more. But if we have the opportunity to get Lawrence, as a fan base and as an organization, we have to be willing to understand sometimes these moves need to be made not for the detriment of the franchise, but for the benefit of the franchise. As speaking about the Cowboys game, looks like we may have a full load of talent back on the field. The only non-participant in practice yesterday was O'Shane Ximines with the shoulder. Limited practice were Peppers and Colbert and Kyler. I'm not a fan of Kyler. I am really not a fan of Kyler, and I will tell you, and I'm not. He can do one thing. Kyler can rush the quarterback. That's what he can do. Plain and simple. He can't hold the edge against a run. He can't cover. Green Bay knew this. Even in his 10-sack season, Green Bay the next year replaced him with 2 free agent linebackers and drafted a guy, and then let him walk. So we just need to understand that he is what he is. We also waived Sean Chandler and promoted Eric Tomlinson, so that's an interesting thing. We waived safety and brought up a tight end. Our roster is still in flux. That means probably Colbert's going to be ready to participate on Sunday. Beyond that, like I said, I think we just need to understand the future holds many different things for many different players. And we never know what's going to happen with Daniel Jones, and we kind of just have to go from there. If you want, drop us an email at onlinebigblue@gmail.com. Say hello. Or you can also follow us at onlineBigBlue at onlineBigBlue1 on Twitter. And again, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talking here, Tim. And as always, if you could like, if you could subscribe, if you could ring that bell, you know what that means, that'd be awesome.